How's everybody doing tonight? This is Chopping It Up Hardcore with Hal Capone, discussion number 48. Tonight I have a very special guest. Tonight I'm speaking with Dan Zimmerman. Dan Zimmerman is in Harvest. He also was in the band The Hope Conspiracy. He's in a great new band called Recept down in Brazil, and also in a band called City of God with Dave from Harvest. On top of that, he runs a great YouTube channel that caters to what he videotaped back in the day, called 25 After. If you guys want to watch some good videos, subscribe to that YouTube channel because it's really, really good. Dan, I see you want me to, are you going to go on the 25 After, or you want me to join you with this one? Hope everybody's doing good. A little heat wave going on in New England. I'm not complaining. I'd rather have this any day than snow. There we go. Sending a request right now to Dan. Like I said, heat wave coming. I'm ready for it. I love the hot weather.
Hal.
Hey, what's going on, Dan?
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, trying to get everything set up here so that you can see me. Can you hear okay?
Yep.
All right. How's it going?
Good. Sometimes I like, it's always a crapshoot when I do these because some people, they use different things to connect. Sometimes it breaks up and stuff. If I break up, please let me know.
Yeah, I ended up connecting with my wife's phone because my phone's all kind of crazy. It's got a little glitch where it kind of starts pushing buttons by itself every now and then. So I switched here so that it should be better.
Sweet. I want to thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you taking the time out to talk to me. Like I said, Sundays, I always say, are family days for some people. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to chat with me.
You bet. It's I enjoy chatting. I've been very nostalgic lately with the channel and stuff. So it's I enjoy talking about all these things. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And Sundays are good for me now. Kind of since the pandemic, every day is family day. So it's it's fine to have a Sunday evening kind of off.
And the 25 After channel is so great for me because that was kind of my era, the mid to late 90s, and all the bands that you posted, that you took videos of, is really to watch again. I've taped some of those bands too, but not as many as you did back then.
Yeah, it's I've seen some of your stuff too. It's really cool to see. I love seeing, even posting these videos and stuff. I've had people contact me with, different angles and stuff of the same show, and yeah, I love seeing, all this stuff. And it's funny for me because I haven't seen these videos in, 20, 25 years. I haven't seen them basically since they were filmed because everything, well, I moved to Brazil in 2002, and so kind of everything just got left at my parents' house. Giant box full of, I think, 137 different tapes that I filled up with concerts and stuff. So the box was just kind of left there all these years and haven't seen anything. So luckily, Mike Duffy, the former guitarist of Endeavor, who also played in Harvest for a while, he lives in Minneapolis, and he has been gracious enough to take on the task of digitizing these tapes. He works at the University of Minnesota and has access to the tape decks and all that stuff. So he's been incredible with that, and digitizing things, and then he sends it my way, and you know, from there I take the files and do some audio restoration, because there's, you know, a lot of times the high end has all kind of decayed over the years, so I have to boost that up, and there's other little glitches. And I work with audio engineering, so you know, I do a bunch of audio restoration just generally, so I've been kind of putting that to use with these videos.
It's been really great watching them. I have some stuck on VHS tape that I need to transfer over, kind of stuff from late 90s too. I have Fall Silent, who played up in New Hampshire, Tower when they first started. Who else do I have? Despair, Trial from Seattle, Blood Has Been Shed, just like a bunch.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm trying in the process to get that kind of digitized and get on a zip file so that I can work with it easier than a VHS tape.
Yeah, the digitizing's a tricky thing, and I know Mike has had some. He's tried some different decks, you know, some different VHS decks, and you know, tried a number of different things, because each deck was kind of playing it a little differently. One had, you know, more of the high end cut out. Another one was more distorted. So there were kind of, you know, a number of things that have been going back and forth. But yeah, it's and it's one of those kind of time sensitive things too. Is analog tape. You know, it deteriorates over time. So you gotta digitize it before it gets too late. Same thing with all the old reels, you know, because, you know, I'm used to the old digital tapes, and I started recording, you know, I was kind of at the same time that I started playing guitar, I got into audio engineering and bought you know, a 4-track cassette tape recorder, a Fostex 4-track cassette recorder back in, I think probably like 92 or 93, and recorded a bunch of stuff with that. And then I sold that and bought a reel-to-reel 8-track, and I recorded some stuff with that. And then we also have the old Harvest reels from Living with the God Complex, and different recordings that, you know, we have all these tapes that are just kind of sitting in a closet, and if we don't digitize them soon, they deteriorate, you know, so.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I want to ask you, on the Harvest videos, who's actually holding the camera? Because I know you're usually holding. Who's holding for the Harvest videos?
Yeah, that varied a lot. On this last video that I put up, which was the Kansas City Fest in 1996, in the YouTube channel, I listed it as the you know, cameraman was Dan Zimmerman's tripod, because I think on that one I just put it up on a tripod, hit record, went up, because I had I recorded the whole fest at the Kansas City Fest, and you know, I think I recorded every band, just about every song of every band, and so I had a tripod set up, and then I would man the camera for all the bands except for Harvest. And then with Harvest, I don't think anyone, I don't know, I didn't sucker anyone into getting the camera, but you know, it's been a lot of different people. You know, in Minnesota, there's all sorts of friends that have recorded. You know, the first Harvest video that I posted, which was April 26th in Northfield, with Harvest, Disembodied, and I Shot McKinley. It was an old friend of mine, like one of my first friends from, well, I mean, we were friends from like kindergarten on, but, and so he recorded. And when Harvest toured with Endeavor, the Endeavor guys recorded a lot. Mike actually recorded a bunch of stuff. You know, I have a video of the show that we played on that tour in Staten Island, which was, I think, Harvest, Endeavor, Morning Again, and Coalesce. And while Harvest was recording, Mike was recording, and there's all sorts of kind of funny banter going on and stuff. So it's yeah, different people at different times. I think the only person I didn't really invite back to record was probably Jesse, the drummer from Despair. when we toured with Despair, the first Harvest tour we did was Harvest, Brothers Keeper, and Despair. And at one show, I think it was down in South Carolina or somewhere, you know, it was Jesse's turn to record, you know, kind of everyone took turns and stuff. And Jesse recorded, but being a drummer, I think he stayed behind Aaron, our drummer, and he would film like the snare drum for 3 minutes and then move to the floor tom for a minute. And so I have a drum cam from sometime in July of 1996 in one show, but yeah, it was different people every time. You know, it was kind of either bands that we were friends with or someone, you know, sometimes random people. You know, even in, I think the first video at the beginning of Disembodied, you can on the first one I posted on April 26th, when Disembodied was playing, Justin, their drummer, usual drummer, original drummer, he was singing at the time, and he called me down. So he's like, Dan, get someone else to record, and someone else offered, and I, you know, was able to go down and join in the fun. But
yeah,
but yeah, it changes it up.
Once in a while, I would just want to enjoy like watching the band, so I would always have like one of my friends do it. And the only problem with that is like if they liked rocking out or whatever, you'd get the camera going.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I tried to stay as still as possible so that it wasn't like, you know, you wouldn't have an epileptic fit if you watched the, you know.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. I would try to, you know, it's kind of funny seeing the difference between, you know, videos now and then. Like nowadays, you know, when people film, they're generally more active. You know, like you know, Sonny from Hate 56. You know, he's super. You know, he's great at, you know, really catching the action and moving around. And I was, you know, super slow pans, slow zooms, and everything. So you know, different styles for different eras, I guess. But it was you know, it's cool seeing the different styles. Even some, you know, it even changed up for me because there's one video clip that I posted on the channel, which was Endeavor on our tour with them out west in Mesa, Arizona, at the Nile Theater. And it was, you know, it's kind of a bigger venue, and it was really pretty empty, you know, barely any crowd interaction and stuff. And for some reason, I filmed that one in black and white. The camera had a number of different modes, and
yeah,
and I would, you know, change them up every now and then. I don't know why that show is in black and white, but for some reason, I just love the way that one turned out, because I was, you know, super close, right in front of Mike's amp and well, Duffy's amp. There's a bunch of mics in Endeavor, so I was right in front of Duffy's amp, and Olander would come, you know, passing by, and the camera would kind of move with it. I don't know. I love how now and then they turn out well. So
yeah. Yes, and if anybody doesn't know, you have so many good like clips coming up. Coalesce and the Bloodlet video was really good. I was a huge Bloodlet fan back in the day too. Botch, which like I'm a huge Botch fan too. That era was so special to me. Like I said, Constructive Semantics and Living with a God Complex and Millhouse's Obscenity in the Milk. That 97 like blast of hardcore that came out was just really special for me, and it's just great to see old videos from that time. Disembodied was huge too. I saw Disembodied up in New Hampshire and Rochester as well, and they were always special time to go see. I think I saw them 2 or 3 times down in Mass, and then a couple times in New Hampshire. So it's just really great to see.
yeah, Disembodied, you know, Disembodied is a special one for me too. They're like basically Harvest's sister band, you know. That's how I think of them. Like, you know, I was, you know, Justin's been my best friend since, you know, 95 or before that. I don't know exactly when, and you know, always been close with them. And, you know, it was kind of, you know, both bands at the same time, kind of going along at the same time, I think them a little ahead of us in terms of, they would release things that, like, they'd be kind of like one step ahead of us and stuff. And, but it was always, it was always love between the two bands. And I filmed, I'm not sure with Disembodied, I would think it would be more. For some reason, I think I have 18 shows of theirs filmed, but I would think it would be more because, I was around them all the time. But I suppose, we never toured with them, which was kind of a bummer. I've always thought that would have been like the perfect tour, just because, because of the friendship and everything. And, it's nice doing a Minnesota represent tour. But
I'm surprised you guys never toured. That's like strange to me that you guys never toured, being friends and being around the same area. It's how come it never happened?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if it's just because we played together so much anyways. I mean, we Minnesota shows, we would play together, a bunch of the time. And yeah, I don't know exactly why. And the same thing, it's funny because, same thing where I think of Disembodied and Harvest, they kind of moved on to be the Hope Conspiracy and Martyr AD. And Martyr AD and Hope Conspiracy, I don't think we ever played together. I could be wrong. Maybe my memory's failing me. And that's one of the nice things about the videos, because it helps me have a representation of all the things that I saw, where I was at, and all that. And it's like you said, that era was a special era too. Just because it was so I don't know. Things are. I don't mean to place one thing over the other or anything like that, but nowadays things are a lot different than back then. Back then it was people would know you from touring, from going out and playing, and it wasn't like we didn't really have the internet even for people to things weren't available, and so it was everything was smaller and cozier. And I love big shows too. It's awesome doing big shows with big crowds, but like the smaller shows, I posted a video of Disembodied at the Winnipeg Fest from May 11th, and man, it's them in this little basement in Winnipeg, because the fest was at this one place in this old building, and the building parts, it was like on the second floor, and on the first floor during the bands that were playing before Disembodied, like the ceiling started falling down on people on the first floor. So they rightfully determined that if Disembodied played there, the place would have probably collapsed. And so they moved it to a basement show. And it's this like tiny little basement in Winnipeg that I think is like a dirt floor, because there's dust all over the place, but it's just this crazy energy, and I just love the energy of these little basement shows. And yeah, there was it's funny, you mentioned all the other videos coming up. There's so much stuff, and like we did I think it's in August of '96, so in a couple months I should have the videos up, because I'm trying to post everything exactly 25 years after it was filmed. It, in part just because I think it's fun to have this kind of little time travel thing where I'm kind of gradually going through and reliving these memories and stuff, but also it helps me to prepare all of these files and do everything I got to do to upload everything and prepare the files and everything, just because of the amount of shows that I have and stuff. So it's yeah. And anyways, there was a show in August of '96 in Milwaukee, a basement show that was Harvest, Jesuit, Trial, Converge, who else was it? And Botch. So it's just like, this weird little basement show, and it was a weird kind of long basement where would kind of play sideways. You know, it's not like you're at the end of it. You're kind of in the middle of it and stuff. And you know, it was just like, I don't know. I just love those old basement shows and, you know, shows at the Fireside Bowl in Chicago and all that stuff. And I'm bummed that, you know, I only had my camera. I think I had it for about 3 years or something, 2.5 years. And then when Harvest was on tour out east, I think one of our last tours out east, we were in Toronto, and someone, while we were supposed to play a fest or something, a show in Toronto, and we got there late. We thought it was like, I don't know, harvest time. People always mention, like, we got there I think at 7 p.m. thinking that it was okay, and the fest was like a day fest or something, so we totally missed the fest, weren't able to play. So we went out to dinner, and then while we were at dinner, someone broke into the van, opened up the back doors, and stole my camera, my guitar, a bunch of stuff. Oddly, to get the guitars, they crawled, you know, they opened the back doors of our ambulance, our van then, and had to crawl over the bunk and stuff and to get the guitars. I think they stole, I can't remember if it was one of my guitars, or I don't know if Eric had a guitar stolen as well, maybe. And to get to that, they had to climb over the cash box. So they left that there. They didn't see that, but they got my video camera and some guitars and stuff. I mean, luckily it was a Harvest cash box in the 90s, so it probably had like $70 in there, but it was, yeah, lost, you know, that was the end of my camera, and I lost all the footage from that tour, which I was bummed, because on that tour, I finally started touring more, or finally started filming more stuff on tour, like in the van and stuff, because up until then I was always very kind of focused on just filming the shows, you know, filming the bands at the shows. And I was, you know, kind of crazy about it. Same thing with the Cleveland Fest in 1996. I think I filmed every song of every band. So I have, you know, like, I think I maybe missed a few minutes of, you know, one of the bands or something, but I think I have, I don't know, 30 bands or something from that weekend.
That's great. It's kind of stinky. Ask you what tape was in the recorder when they stole it, but you just said what it was.
Yeah, it was, and I'm trying to think too, because well, when was that? It's funny, I'm trying to think, because I think there was a crazy show that we played that I never remember all the bands that played. I remember Ben from Dillinger Escape Plan posted a while back, I don't know, it's been like a year or two, he posted a flyer from this show that we played in Philadelphia at the Stalag 13, which I think was like December. For some reason I was thinking it was 97, but maybe it was 98, because that would make sense, because that's when my camera was stolen. But it was like Harvest, Dillinger Escape Plan, I think Cave In, and like, I can't remember now, my memory's failing me, but like seeing the flyer, there's like, it's another one of those shows where there's like 6 bands that just, you know, are all kind of shocking, and that you'd want to see nowadays, all those bands.
Yeah, definitely. Usually when I talk to, you know, my guests, I always ask, what got you into punk and hardcore first and foremost, and what kind of music were you listening to beforehand? What kind of like really got the gears turning for you that you like punk and hardcore?
Yeah, for me, I started out as a, you know, rock, you know, started out listening to like rock and stuff. Ever since I was a kid, like my very best friend from the first day of kindergarten, he had some older brothers, and they were big into AC/DC and stuff. And I was, you know, I was into, you know, start out with more of the regular rock. You know, I was a big Kiss fan, and for a while, that's actually the band that got me started playing guitar, because I saw a video of theirs on MTV, and you know, saw them with, you know, guitars, and remembered that my mom had an acoustic guitar in the closet, and I was, in 1990, and I picked it up and just was kind of a maniac for like the first year, just playing all the time. And yeah, so I was, into rock and stuff. And then, my early bands, at first you start out with cover bands and stuff. And so, my first, like high school, junior high cover band, we would play, Metallica and Anthrax, Cotton and Mosh, Seasons in the Abyss. We'd play Slayer. I think the first song I ever learned on guitar was Detroit Rock City. The first song I ever played in a band was Anarchy in the UK. But that wasn't, but it's funny, there's a bunch of, looking back, there's a bunch of punk connections even when I was more of a metal kid, like Anarchy in the UK, it wasn't because of Sex Pistols, it was because our bass player was a huge Motley Crue fan and Motley Crue covered it. So it was more of that than Sex Pistols. I mean, we were aware of the Sex Pistols, but, it was more rock and metal. So I was like a metal kid. And then in, probably 91, the other guitarist in my band, my still cover band at the same time there, we have a great video of us playing For Whom the Bell Tolls. The other guitarist was Tony Byron, who ended up years later, he was a total metal kid, and then years later he got into the hardcore scene and actually played guitar in Disembodied, probably like 98 or so. I'm not sure exactly, kind of later on with Disembodied. And so it's kind of cool because we were friends in junior high, and he introduced me into a bunch of stuff. Probably like 91, he had Sepultura, Dead Embryonic Cells. It was like a pre-release to Arise, where it had Dead Embryonic Cells, Orgasmatron, and like one or two other songs or something. And that, I remember that was probably the first kind of like extreme metal band that I saw that I was just blown away with, just like, what's, like, people actually play like this, because coming from I don't know, Kiss or whatever, and then you get introduced to Sepultura, it's kind of crazy. So got into kind of heavier stuff like that, and then even, it's funny, the punk hardcore thing and the metal thing. So like in 93, I was still like a metal kid, long hair. Went to an Anthrax concert in St. Paul, which was Anthrax, White Zombie, and Quicksand, which was, a surprising lineup, I'd say. But it's cool, like seeing Quicksand in 93, being able to look back on that, because it was, I wasn't, I don't know, I was starting to get into hardcore. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I got into hardcore, to what really introduced me into the hardcore scene was Dave from Harvest and Justin from Disembodied. Their earlier bands, before Harvest and before Disembodied, both of them were in a band called Rain, which was, a really influential band for me, because it was, that was like my friends and people that I worked with at Burger King, and stuff. And so like, the bass that I have to this day was the bass player, my friend Mark from Rain. At their last show, he took it off and slammed it down, and it broke. So after the show, I was like, well, how's your bass? He's like, you can have it. So he gave it to me, and I took it all apart and glued it back together, threw in some EMG pickups and a different bridge, and that's the bass that was used a bunch. Jonas used it, a bunch, most of the time in Harvest and the Hope Conspiracy, up until, I was out of the band and stuff, kind of. And but yeah, Rain. So the Rain, I think, was like 94. I don't know exactly when they started, when they ended. Before that, they had a band called Pillar, which was the same thing. That was, so I think Pillar was probably 92, 93. And I'm not sure exactly when they started either. And that was, really influential band because the same thing is, kind of the same people and friends from the town that I lived in southern Minnesota. And, we would go to we'd go to shows and, uh, around, close to home and stuff. And they would kind of put on shows in the warehouse. Dave, when you talked with Dave talked about that scene a little bit. And that was, that's what got me started. And then, so I was basically early 90s, I was a metal kid that started getting into the hardcore scene. I can't remember exactly when, probably around 93 or so. I was working my first job at Burger King, and like everyone that worked there was hardcore kids. It was all like vegan, straight edge hardcore kids working at Burger King. And that's like when I went vegetarian and got into, got more into hardcore. My friend Mark, especially, and a bunch of other, friends from the Faribault scene would borrow me tapes of, Into Another was a big one for me. Into Another, probably, early stuff. Into Another and Earth Crisis for me were kind of the bands that I think really drew me into the scene, because, well, in addition to Pillar and Rain were, I don't know how to explain them, faster, old school, hardcore, and like, both Earth Crisis and Into Another were, musically, incredible and really caught my attention. There's a bunch of other stuff too. He would give me all sorts of, cassette tapes of None Left Standing, Ordination of Aaron, a bunch of stuff from that time. So that was kind of, it was kind of me being a metal kid getting into, drawn into the hardcore scene, probably 92, 93, 94. And then I think it was like 95 that I finally just shaved my head and went kind of full on into the hardcore scene. And late, sometime, I think in the fall of 95 is when I bought my camcorder and started filming. The first show that I filmed was Disembodied in someone's living room, and which I posted that show already at Hardware's house. And then 95, I actually wrote down, because I have, let's see if I can find the paper here, because there was so much stuff. It was crazy, like the shows that I recorded, back then, in 95, because we would also, being in Minnesota, we would go down to Chicago all the time. That was kind of our second home, because there were lots of bands that wouldn't make it up to Minnesota, but everyone would kind of go to Chicago. And so, we would go to Chicago and, sometime, basically like every 3 weeks we'd be there and stuff. And so the fall of 95, I recorded Despair, I think Chalkline, Despair, and Shelter at the Fireside Bowl, which was the first time I, got to know Scott Vogel and stuff. And so it's kind of cool, actually, like, we would chat and, we started kind of talking and stuff, and before I was in Harvest, and then we, not long after that, in July of 96, we were touring together and stuff. So it's kind of crazy how things, kind of went fast, and ever since, late 95, it was just shows, almost, every week or every couple weeks, and tours and stuff like that. So, but yeah, there's just so much, crazy stuff, Shelter, Despair, Damnation, Lifetime, Snapcase, Integrity, Hatebreed, Dead Guy, Bloodlet, Blue Tip, Elliot, Endeavor, Battery, Botch, Converge, Trial, AFI, Deftones, Madball, all of this in like 96, So it was kind of, just full force into it. So, probably around 95, 96 was when I, really kind of got full on obsessed with hardcore and, maybe a little bit negligent to other styles of music for a few years there, but
Yeah. Did you take a deep dive into like the Revelation stuff? Did you kind of go back in time a little bit and hit the Revelation stuff?
Yeah, it's funny. It's really weird. Some stuff, but I had, for me, I had this weird thing, and I still kind of have this thing. It's a pitfall of mine, is that I listen to I mostly listen to bands that I've seen, and so it's funny because like when you and Dave were talking the other time, when you had your talk, you're talking about like the Cro-Mags. Like I never really listened much to the Cro-Mags because I never saw them, at least back in that around that time. And so it was kind of strange, I would mostly listen to the stuff that I saw, and there's a bunch of Revelation stuff, but Victory Records was kind of a big thing for us in the Midwest, because we would always, I would be staying all the time in Chicago with our friends there, Jim and Carrie, Jim Grimes, who sang for this band Extinction, who actually was one of the bands that Dave forgot to mention about the Last Harvest show. The Last Harvest show in '99, Extinction played, and Jim sang for that band, and he put out Stormtrooper Zine before that, and he booked all sorts of shows, booked the first Harvest reunion tour in 2011. But yeah, him and Carrie, they were living together at the time. Like they were, massively important, influential people for me in Chicago. Like for me, Chicago was Jim and Carrie, and around that time, and it was like a second home for us, and we would stay there all the time, and go with them to the Victory warehouse and stuff, and so Victory, and also for me too, because like Earth Crisis was a big influence, or had a big impact on me. It was one of those bands that, I think both Earth Crisis and Into Another, for getting into vegan and straight edge and stuff, veganism and everything. So, yeah, I think Victory was kind of a bit stronger there for us, but yeah, there's, all sorts of stuff that, I love a wide variety of stuff, and especially nowadays more so than back then. Back then it was, everything hardcore, but that's the way it goes.
We were huge up in New England on Victory too when it first hit. That when for me, the stronger bands for me were obviously Earth Crisis was huge for me. In the beginning, when I heard All Out War and Firestorm, those records, that just like had a huge impact on me. And then Destroy the Machines hit, and I was full-fledged hooked on those guys. But on the Victory side too, I think like for me, Integrity and like Dead Guy and Bloodlet were like those were my favorites. I love Snapcase too. Like I like Strife, but I was never like fully into Strife. But those bands were like huge for me, like Dead Guy, Integrity, Bloodlet, and Snapcase.
Yeah, I mean, all those for me too. Snapcase was a big one. I loved Snapcase, and we played with them. We played with them a few times, and then in 90, we played with them, I think in 97, maybe 98 as well, but we played with them a number of times. And then in 98, Dustin Perry, who played bass in Threadbare, who was that's a band that I have to mention also, as far as major influence, because Threadbare is a band that people who know them know how incredible they are, but they didn't tour much, they didn't play much, so they didn't, they never blew up and stuff. And it was also from the time period, but they're just a ridiculous band. Like them now, I listen to their stuff now, and it's still right up there with anything that's going on now, both in terms of songwriting and raw emotion and recording quality. They always had phenomenal recording quality. Mike's an amazing drummer, and like all the guys are great. Brian's vocals, he's one of my favorite vocalists. He was in Blinding Light as well, and I just love his voice. But yeah, so Dustin played bass in Threadbare and stuff, and I would see them, I think, I don't know if 93, but 94, around that time. And then in 98, Dustin played guitar in Harvest for a while, really quick, and actually recorded on the last Harvest 7-inch, One Step Closer to Less. And he, toured a little bit with us and stuff. And then afterwards, he moved out to Buffalo to play bass for Snapcase. And, he's been with them for ever since then and stuff, for the stuff they've done. But yeah, Snapcase, Strife too. I was really into them. Yeah, for me, I think Earth Crisis was probably the biggest, impact for me, as far as, one of the Victory bands, but all that stuff. Dead Guy 2 is amazing. Bloodlet 2. It's funny, Bloodlet, a lot of people always, did comparisons between Harvest and Bloodlet, and our original bass player, I know was really into them, but I didn't listen to them that much back then, actually, which is kind of odd. It kind of went back and revisited them later.
Yeah.
But trying to think of the other Victory bands, yeah, all sorts of stuff. I was, kind of into all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, Victory blew up then, and it was just a phenomenon across. I think it was across the United States and everywhere, actually. When all those bands, all of a sudden, it just hit, and then it was just release after release after release, and it was some solid stuff for years and years and years on Victory. Definitely. Speaking of like that time, I know the Incision 7-inch was the first thing you were on. How did you kind of get into Harvest? I know they were kind of a band before you got in there. Yeah. Like Dave said Incision 7-inch is probably his favorite Harvest thing of everything that you guys have put out. How did you get into Harvest, and how did it just progress from there? And just let me know how that went for you.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I was, happy to hear Dave saying that, kind of surprised, because usually I think of the older stuff as, the stuff that we get more connected with, because like it's a progression and you're growing and stuff. But it started actually because sometime in between Harvest, sometime in between Dave doing Harvest and Justin doing Disembodied and them doing their previous band, we actually played together. We started a band that never did any show. I think we wrote a few songs, and it was another friend of mine, Mitch Parks, who was a guitarist, and he was mostly writing the stuff and really cool stuff. I'm not sure. I'm curious if I have any of that stuff recorded. But yeah, so I think that was sometime in '95 that we had that band together, where it was, it was more of a, faster, faster, more upbeat punk hardcore thing, not so metal. And so we had that band that we kind of started and were practicing just because I was really good friends with mostly Justin and also Dave at the time. It's funny looking back. It's hard to remember exactly at what point you become close with someone, but probably around 94, 95. Well, I went vegetarian in 94, and that was all because of the hardcore scene and stuff. So it's probably maybe before that, but yeah. So we had that band that was probably in 94, 95 that we were just practicing in a basement for a number of months, and then it just kind of fizzled out. And then I did another hardcore band with some other friends from Faribault. Actually, this guy is Shane Gary, who was the drummer from this band Code 13. I don't know. Code 13 is like a kind of crust punk grind sort of band, like really heavy, crusty stuff. And so we had like this hardcore band and played one show at our high school gymnasium and stuff. And then, Harvest started out, I think in 94 or so. I think 94, 95, they started doing things, and it was, the other four, original members, before I was in the band. So Dave and Eric, the other guitarist, and then Adam, the bass player, and Aaron, the drummer. And so they had, and they did that first record on Ferret, and I loved that stuff, and saw them. I don't even know how many times I saw them. And then they had another guitarist for a short period of time. I actually filmed a show. There's one Harvest show that I filmed that before I was in the band, which was January 6th of 1996, which was, they had this other guitarist, in addition to the original four, they had this other guitarist, Jamie Wolford, who went on to play, after that, this kind of ska punk, ska punk band called Animal Chin. And then later on, he went to play in different bands on Fueled by Ramen, The Stereo. He had some other bands too that I'm forgetting the names, but Jamie, he played guitar for a while, and he helped write, I think, Ahimsa, and he played on Cessation, and he recorded he recorded the first 7-inch that I was on, the Incision 7-inch. So he was the engineer for that. And I don't know exactly why they split, but I recorded that show in January of 96, and then sometime after that, I don't remember the exact timeline, sometime after that, probably in like February or so, he was out of the band. They were looking for a new guitarist. I went and tried out, and we just, the guys had just written Auburn, and they were kind of working that out. So I kind of came in, and I think that was probably the first song that I learned, Auburn, and just working that out. And we just kind of, I just learned the song, and we just played. And then after that, I was just in the band. I don't know exactly how long it took. I don't know if it was the same day that they, said that or not. But it was, it's basically just that, we just I tried out that once. And then, then in April, we played the first show that I played with them. Also in April, we recorded the Incision 7-inch, and then it came out, I think, in June, and in July we were touring with Despair and Brothers Keeper. So it's kind of crazy how it just, took off super fast. So
was Waterfall was your first song that you kind of helped write? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, Waterfall, I think Waterfall was basically basically kind of all me. It's funny because like I have it, generally the way I write is I just hear a song in my head and then I have to figure out how to play it. And so, you know, usually I'll, you know, once I figure out to play it, you know, I kind of show everyone what I have in mind, because I usually have kind of everything in mind except for the vocals, you know. And so it's very, like with the newer stuff that, yeah, the newer stuff that we've done, you know, my band with this project band with Dave, City of God, that stuff, and with the last Harvest 7-inch, I think I called One Step Closer, the last one earlier, but the last Harvest 7-inch in 2011, Years of Defiance, Years of Disgust, that one, it was basically, you know, I'm an audio engineer, so I have the ability to, you know, record everything and program drums. So I'll, you know, program the drums, record both guitars, record the bass, and send up a full instrumental mix. And then the guys, you know, basically decide if they like it, you know, if not, you know, if we're going to just abandon the song or if we're going to rework the song, and, you know, if they want to play it the way that I had in mind or if they change it up. So, so that's kind of how it, you know, it starts out. You know, it's usually, and I think in Harvest, it's funny, I want to talk with Eric. I want to do a chat with Eric, the other guitarist, because with Harvest, it was very, I felt, the feeling I get from my memory is it was very kind of equal, kind of right when I got in, like the Incision 7-inch, it's, you know, one song that's mine, one song that's, you know, his, or I'm not even sure how much it was between him and Adam. I think Eric was kind of the main songwriter before I was in the band. And then when I came in, it was kind of split 50-50. And, you know, and Adam, the bass player, would bring ideas too as well. But yeah, and then, you know, kind of towards the end of Harvest, Eric kind of started fading out a little bit. Actually, you know, for a while he left the band. And he was focusing on his font creation company and graphic design and stuff like that. And that's when Dustin played guitar with us and stuff. And around that time, I think I kind of really took over as the kind of main songwriter, and was just kind of like that up until nowadays, kind of with my band. So I don't know. It's kind of funny, like, you know, this band that I have, this new band that I have down here, that it's kind of a way of breaking that, because I've always had this thing where I don't know, I hear the songs and then I have to translate and do kind of everything and then share it with other guys and see what they think. And I don't know, I've been in a bit of a rut, you know, over the last whatever years and stuff. And so I have, you know, I wanted to kind of break out of that and just, you know, sing for a band, just be the vocalist. And so I, you know, met another musician down here through a mutual friend of ours who's also a singer in a band down here in Sao Paulo in Brazil. And so, you know, this other guitarist, his name's Fox, or that's his nickname. So Fox, he's kind of like, he's kind of a Brazilian younger version of me. You know, he does things, you know, kind of the same way. He's also into, you know, engineering and stuff. So you know, I mentioned I wanted to do a band and just sing for it. And, you know, I got in touch with him. We started exchanging messages and stuff. And, you know, he sent me like 4 songs with the instrumentals, and then I just started laying vocals over them. So it's nice. It's my way of kind of breaking out of this, I don't know, this rut where if I feel like if I'm not producing stuff that I don't know, that I need someone else to get the ball rolling, you know. So that's kind of the nice thing with down here. and especially with the pandemic and just kind of the crazy times that we've been going through, and 4 years of Trump and everything, I just felt the need to have some sort of outlet to speak out, so
Yeah. Now, when will people hear the new band that you're in, that you're singing on?
yeah, I'm anxious to get that going. We just need to uh, we just need to get things moving. We have like 4 songs, 3 songs that are totally complete, and a 4th song that's instrumental that I have vocal ideas, but it's not fully formed yet, and then some other ideas, and we just kind of need to get to focus on it. And unfortunately, I'm kind of like Dave in how he mentioned with this pandemic, it's kind of hindered productivity rather than increased it, because it's kind of I mean, I think everyone, it was difficult adapting to the change of homeschooling and all that stuff, and I have 2 daughters who are 9 and 14. My 14-year-old has Down syndrome, and so all of her schooling is kind of adapted for her and stuff. And so, when the pandemic hit, it just became really kind of intense, focusing on their schoolwork and kind of helping make sure that they're dealing with this bizarre situation that we're going through, and I really worry about the psychology of kids that are growing up in this time, because, we've all of a sudden, especially here in Brazil, it's a crazy thing, because here in Brazil, it's a very warm society, in the sense that everyone, you greet people by hugging and kissing, you kiss on the cheek and stuff. And like I've been down here 19 years or so. And so I'm completely used to that. And so it's so bizarre to, meet someone, and not be able to reach out to them and give them a hug or shake their hand or kiss them on the cheek and this stuff. And it's, it's crazy, like how, we, for good reason, to help, control the pandemic, we adapted to, take all the precautions necessary and everything. But I feel, I just get worried about how it's going to affect, the kids. And I mean, it affects everyone, it affects, I think everyone's feeling a lack of connection. And so it's, that's kind of part of the reason why I started doing the 25 after thing too, because, with shows not happening, and now, I mean, in the States they're coming back, which is crazy, because it seemed like there was no end in sight for a long time, especially here in Brazil, because Brazil has been, kind of one of the worst countries in dealing with the pandemic, largely just because of the president who just kind of blew things off and downplayed things. And it's crazy too, because Brazil, has like public health care, and they're actually really well known for vaccinating the population. They're great at vaccinating the population through this public health care system where, everything's free. And even one time I cut my foot open on the beach and went and got it all stitched up and stuff, and just, walk out, you don't pay anything. So like, it's funny, because Brazil has this thing where, they're generally really good at vaccinating the population, but with this, it was just a matter of not like negotiating to have the materials needed for the vaccines and all that stuff. So we are, way behind the States. Down here things are still really locked down, and it doesn't look like shows will be coming back anytime till like next year, whereas in the States things are starting to get back to normal. So
Yeah,
so I don't know.
I saw a few shows getting posted. There's one in New York, I think, this week. And to get in, though, you have to show your vaccination card to actually get into the show. So there are shows that are popping up here and there. I see a lot of shows that are getting booked. I usually go to the Middle East in Boston, and I think the first show that I saw that was posted is in August, I think, and that's a hip hop show. Uh,
Oh,
so so Middle East will, I guess, are starting to roll out the shows. Maybe late summer, early.
oh,
But yeah, I see popping up all the time. And also, there's like a big, I think it's in Philly. There's a big relapse sponsored fest that Dead Guy is finally
yeah.
after 25 years, that show. And I think Converge is doing all of Jane Doe, I think, on that fest too as well. And Napalm Death, I think, is doing a certain album too that I saw. But yeah, there's like a bunch of fests being booked and all kinds of stuff happening in the United States. I think I'm gonna take a step back for a little while until we'll see how it goes. I'm chomping at the bit to get to go to shows because I always used to go all the time. But I'm just going to take a step back, see how it goes, and then eventually I'll start filtering in. But, I can wait till 2022 till, we see what the outlook is and how that is.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because I'm going back to Minnesota next month, and we've been talking with some people about doing some about whether or not shows are going to be possible while I'm there, and if so, if we're going to be able to do something with one of the bands. So we'll see. I mean, we're going to be there. It's the whole family's. I'm going up with my wife and the whole family, and we're going to be there for like 5 weeks or so. So we're going to go up there and actually get our vaccines and stuff, and then be up there for the whole month so that we can do both shots and everything. So yeah, I'm curious as to how it's going to be if I'm going to be able to see some shows while I'm there or do a show or something. So we'll see what happens.
Funny, I was talking to John from Daughters, the drummer of Daughters, and Dave was on, and he was commenting and stuff. And Lex from Daughters was actually on commenting, and they were talking about a Daughters Harvest tour. And Dave was like, "Oh, I can get the guys back together for that if that happens." Because
Yeah.
Daughters went on a huge tour before this pandemic hit. They were selling out shows in Europe. They sold out, I think, almost all their shows in the United States. So, I mean, if that ever happened, that would I'd be glad to help and because guys and Daughters, so that would be amazing if Harvest and Daughters went on tour.
Yeah, I didn't see when during that conversation, but yeah, Dave mentioned that, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I definitely want to get back into doing some shows and stuff. One thing real quick here. I don't know, is my dog barking here? Is that coming up? Is that bothering you? Can you hear that?
I can hear it, but that's all right because I have two dogs that are lying on my couch over there. And sometimes they do the thing.
Yeah, let me open this quick just to get them in here. We have a new dog that's kind of crazy. So if I don't let him in, he's just gonna be barking forever. But yeah, it's funny because right now I'm just dying to get back to doing shows because it's kind of crazy. Playing shows for me is the highlight of being a musician, being an artist. Like, it's the connection with people that makes everything worth it. And it's like the best thing. And, I miss that because, after Harvest, after the Hope Conspiracy, I moved down to Brazil in 2002. And the plan was originally to be here temporarily. We figured we'd be here for like a year or two so that I could learn Portuguese and get to know her family and the culture and all that stuff. And so I didn't bring a guitar. I didn't bring, amp. I actually brought some pickups, and then I bought a guitar down here and threw them in. But because I'm a big EMG guy, I put EMGs and everything. But yeah, like I didn't, for years I didn't plan on doing anything down here because I figured it was just going to be a year or so, and I didn't want to get a band started and then after things start moving, we'll go back. So I kind of became complacent. I wasn't doing anything. 2000. Well, the end of 2002 we got here, 2003, 2004. And then I started getting kind of antsy, and then we started the City of God project, I think like 2005, 2006, and which is like the biggest snail's pace band in the world. Like everything is super slow, and I take full responsibility for that because it's basically something that we do whenever I go up to the States. We'll get together and do stuff. And yeah, so I, and then and then I was, living down here in 2006, my oldest daughter was born. And so my focus shifted to family, and, and it's just kind of been, since then, family is my big focus, especially, with my daughter. We knew, before she was born that, she had Down syndrome, and that we'd have to, do a lot of things for physical therapy, speech therapy, all that stuff. And so, it became a big focus of mine was, her, and, trying to do the best as a dad as I could. And, also work. I, started working on, I've been lucky down here and just kind of worked on cool projects, a little bit after I moved down here. Started working at MTV Brazil, which was a really cool place, a whole bunch of, punk rockers and stuff. And then worked on other TV stations, started working on different films and doing film scoring and different cultural projects, and, done a lot of really cool, work stuff down here that I really love and I'm proud of and everything. But I miss, being a musician and playing and stuff. And so now it's like, my oldest daughter's 14, soon to be 15. And so like the girls are at a point where I have some leeway. And so it's like now the only thing I want to do is music. I just want to focus on playing and I definitely, it's funny, with Harvest, it's weird because there's a lot of people that have a negative view of bands doing reunions and stuff. And for me, like, I just love, we've done a few tours since we reunited in 2011, which I can get into. You actually talked with Dave a little bit about that. So yeah, we did a tour in 2011, 2012, and then a Japanese tour in 2019. And it's just like, I just love it. It's not, we're not doing it for the money. We basically never come out ahead, especially with everyone scattered around the globe. For a while, Dave was in Canada, I'm in Brazil. People have to fly all around. Our drummer lives in Chicago and stuff. So, we, but we're kind of fortunate where it's like we just have the ability to do it. And, we just love doing it and have fun. So we do it. And there's, there's people that don't like seeing older bands do reunions, think that it's, like a money grab or something like that or whatever. But, we just love doing it. And, so it's funny, I'd love to do more shows, but it's also a tricky thing being an old band that gets back together. Do you write new music? People tend to just want to hear the old stuff and stuff. So it's kind of a tricky situation. But I'd love to. I've always wanted to have Harvest do a European tour. So that's kind of a bucket list thing. Ideally it'd be great doing like Disembodied Harvest European tour or something. But yeah, and then I want to do these new bands and get these new bands moving and stuff as well. So we'll see what happens. And now things are starting to move in the States, and here in Brazil it's probably going to be a while. You asked earlier, I don't know if I got sidetracked about Recept down here, but we're kind of waiting for things to get to a point where we can have shows again, and it will probably be next year. And both the guitarist and I, we're at a point where it's like the fact that we can't do any shows, the fact that everything seems so far in the distance, kind of kills the momentum. So it's kind of funny, how things work, but we'll see. I think 2022 will, hopefully have a number of shows that we'll be doing in some form, some band.
Yeah, definitely. I asked Dave the same question. In the Harvest catalog for you, what's your favorite stuff that you were a part of for Harvest?
Yeah, for me, it's funny, the Incision 7-inch, that's a meaningful one for being, my first release with the band, and my first song written with the band. But yeah, probably the One Step Closer in the last EP. Just because I love the Years of Defiance, Years of Disgust 7-inch that we did with Good Fight as well. I love those songs, but it's one of those things. The new songs, we have 2 new songs, and some other songs that were never recorded or properly recorded, and I love that one too. But yeah, the One Step Closer to Last was a big one because it was, Harvest was kind of always changing, always progressing, and I loved, it's, for me, it was kind of like, that was the epitome, the epitome of the growth before the band split up,
Yeah.
And so I think that was, probably, my favorite, and then kind of moved into the Hope Conspiracy stuff. And so it's kind of funny to me because, like, I think a lot of people think of the 2 bands, Hope Conspiracy and Harvest, as being kind of drastically different things or pretty different things. But I kind of see it as, and this is one of the things that this video channel is bringing back, is kind of seeing the progression. That I love seeing, as shows go on, which songs were added in, and kind of seeing how the songs changed over time. Because even like Hourglass on the Living with the God Complex LP, that's not far off from a Hope Conspiracy song, from like Truth and Purpose and stuff like that. So, so if you look at the songs chronologically from the time they were written, you see how one carries on into the other. Even like, when Harvest ended, there was a song that we had played that there's a recording somewhere on someone else's channel. There's a recording of Harvest. I think in 90, must have been, the very end of 98, at the Fireside Bowl in Chicago, where we played a song that ended up becoming the first Hope Conspiracy song, Escapist, which when Harvest played it, it was a bit different. It had this this crazy neck bending part. I came up with this really weird tuning. I can't remember if you play an instrument as well, or
No, I sung in a band.
you
I
sang, right?
hardcore bands for probably about 10 years, but they were just small New England bands that, we played a bunch of shows, but never really like went anywhere besides New England.
Okay.
I'll send you some links of like some stuff. I actually was in a band. I don't know if you ever heard Ukla the Mock. They were on Life Sentence Records. They toured across to California back in the late 90s, and two of the people that were in that band, I did my first band with those guys called Last House on the Left, and we just did a demo and played one show, but the demo is on my channel as well on YouTube. So if anybody wants to listen to that, it's like some old 90s stuff with there's some singy vocals, and then there's obviously some real heavy hardcore vocals as well. So
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. It was funny, actually, just a couple days ago, like 2 days ago, I was talking with someone that kind of through Facebook and these posts with my video channel and stuff, started talking with this guy Kevin from the New England scene, who actually played in a band with someone from Ukla the Mock as well.
oh, was it Fault?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Fault. And when I play in a band called The Network.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Kev's one of my good friends. I know Kev.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, we were chatting a whole bunch, so it's cool. And it's it's great, getting back in touch with old friends that I've kind of lost touch with most of the world, over the years. And also, getting to know or talk with people that, I maybe haven't talked with in the past and stuff, getting to know new people and everything. But so what I was going to say about the Harvest Hope Conspiracy song. So I asked about if you played because of the tuning, because we had this, I came up with this crazy tuning at the very tail end of Harvest, where the bottom three strings were tuned normal, the lowest strings, and then the top three strings, the second string would stay the same. The top string, the highest string, would tune down to what would it be? A half semitone above the second string, and the third string would tune up to a half semitone below the second string. So you have, in Escapist and a couple of the early Hope Conspiracy songs, we use this tuning. So, like on the that part is harmonics with the top three strings all tuned to be as dissonant as possible, as fighting with each other as possible, because they're just kind of barely out of tune with each other. And so we use that, and so we had that in Harvest. So the song that became Escapist, it started off with, it had a lot of the parts that stayed in Escapist, but then it had this weird beginning part where there would be like this palm muting part, and then we'd do some fretting on the fretboard, and then hit the open strings, those open high strings, the dissonant strings, and then reach up and bend the neck, so it'd be like down. So it was just this hard to vocalize thing, but this really bizarre kind of bendy neck thing that was fun to play, but we cut it out of the Hope Conspiracy version of the song. So yeah, there's a recording somewhere of Harvest doing that song, and then later on it was reworked to be the Hope Conspiracy.
Oh, no kidding. That's like I was talking to Dave when Incision hit. That was the first thing I ever heard from Harvest, and I was hooked as soon as I heard that. I mean, once I heard Waterfall, I was completely hooked, and then anything you guys put out after that was, I mean, like I said, Living with a God Complex to me is top 25 of all time for me.
Yeah.
And I said he was talking about songs. I was like, Covenant is like, and he was like, oh, that was a deep track, and like Covenant by far my favorite song. I think,
Oh, wow.
like it's just I don't know. He was like, wow, I'm surprised at that, but I love that song. I was listening to it today, actually mowing the lawn with my headphones on. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny. And you know, for me, yeah, for me, I think there's like with Living with a God Complex, there's you know, like a couple songs that'll have some riffs that now I'm not, you know, a big fan of, you know, some, you know, the kind of more, I don't know, not thuggy, but, you know, da-dum, ba-dum, 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 I don't know. They're just like, there are some things that, you know, there are like a few riffs that I don't love, you know, but you know, there's, yeah, I mean, I thank you. I appreciate, you know, I'm flattered and very happy to hear that. You know, the best thing is, you know, when your music connects with people. And so it's always good to hear that.
and I always bring out the old. This is like one of my prized possessions from back in the day. This was like very very old, but I still have the Harvest hoodie. You can see how old it is. It's free.
It is pretty.
And the back is like almost coming off, but still there.
Yeah, there's Eric jumping.
It's still, it's still there.
That's great.
But
I think I don't know if I have that in a sweatshirt. I think I have that in a t-shirt. I actually have to go through now on my way back. Well, when I'm back in Minnesota, I need to go through. That's another thing. You know, my parents have, you know, or had boxes of my tapes, and they have boxes of my shirts. So, you know, most of my hardcore shirts are all, you know, all there in boxes. So I'm anxious to go through that stuff and see what I have. So
yeah, talking about hardcore shirts, I was very skinny back in the day, so I always wore like youth larges and stuff like that. And now I'm bordering on 200 pounds. So all my youth larges, I had to either, I have two daughters as well. One's 9 and one will be 12 in a couple weeks. I gave them a few old hardcore shirts, and then I just gave away the rest because I'm, you know, large, extra large now. So it's funny.
Yeah, I think we need to work out an exchange, because even though I've always been like a skinny dude, like back then I would buy large and extra large. You know, it was mid 90s. That was kind of the thing. Like most of my mid 90s shirts are useless for me now because they're so big. And, you know, I don't know how I wore them back then when I was probably smaller than I was now even, but yeah, it's funny how that goes.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Hope Conspiracy. How did that actually happen? I know you and a few other guys from Harvest moved to Massachusetts to join that, well, you know, create. And how did that go about? And the first thing that you guys did was the 3-song self-titled 7-inch, right? That was the first thing that ever got put out?
Yeah, the cassette, or the demo cassette. Yeah, it started out, I mean, basically, well, the last Harvest show that we played was, I think, April 29th, 1999, before the band broke up. So I think sometime in April, I don't remember how long it was before that we, you know, that we split up, but that it came about, you know. But yeah, at some point, I think probably then in April of '99, Dave was planning on moving out to the East Coast, you know, and well, yeah, you know, I think Dave was planning to move out to the East Coast, and basically told us that, you know, he was done with the band, and and I, said that I wanted to keep playing with whoever else wanted to keep playing. And Adam and Jonas, said they wanted to keep playing. Eric said that, he was done. He was going to focus on his business. And then after that, at some point, we were always going to Chicago, and Neeraj, the other original first guitarist, he played in Extinction, that played at Harvest's last show. And I was friends with him, for, all that, however many years before that. And, I was in Chicago for some show, and, I said kind of jokingly to him, because I didn't think he would like accept. And I was like, Neeraj, want to move out to Boston and start a band with us? And he's like, okay. Like he had just, well, I don't know. I don't know if I should, tell his story, whatever, but he, wanted to, he was looking for something new. And so, it just kind of worked out well, and he accepted. And it's kind of funny. I kind of got a little mass migration towards going out to Massachusetts, out to Boston. There was another friend of ours, this girl from Minnesota, that moved out, and this other friend of ours out from California, another girl that, we kind of convinced everyone to move out there. And so we got this giant U-Haul and put, all of my stuff, Jonas's, Adam's, this other girl that lived in Minnesota, Shannon. Then we drove to Chicago, picked up Neeraj and all of his stuff, and drove the giant caravan out to Boston. And yeah, Boston, we moved out there. It was funny. We were actually originally going to move to Springfield, Mass, because Matt Pike, the booking agent, Matt Pike, not the guitarist, Matt Pike, not High and Fire Matt Pike, but the booking agent was a friend of ours and stuff. And we stayed with him when he was living in Springfield. And for some reason, I just fell in love with the town. And, when Harvest split, we really wanted, Jonas, Adam, and I were all, in this mood where we just wanted to, just hit the road and just do everything we could, go full on. And so it's like in the Midwest, it's difficult because you play Minneapolis, you drive 7 hours to get to Chicago, you drive however many hours to get to Detroit, it's limited. And then Harvest, or the Hope Conspiracy, being out in Boston, it was the first year we played 100 shows, and I think 6 of those were in Boston. So it was every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'd be like New York, Chicago, Syracuse. It was just every weekend, 3 shows, and then every few months we'd do a tour. And so it's just kind of full on, and you can do that on the coast. Same thing, California can do that too, but the Midwest wasn't so friendly for that, So yeah, we moved out there, and yeah, we were originally going to move out to Springfield, and then at some point someone's like, why don't you just move to Boston? And we're like, okay. So but yeah, so it was and then yeah, that was it. And then we just so the release. So we moved out there, and yeah, we recorded, like I mentioned, I had, I was always dabbling in recording. I have old 4-track recordings of a bunch of bands, Harvest, the Transitions CD. 2 of the songs I recorded on my 4-track, which were Conditioned and Soul Burn. I recorded basically Disembodied right before they recorded Diablerie in 97. And like late 96, I recorded basically the album for them, tracking in Justin's basement on my 4-track, which actually sounds ridiculously good. That's like probably the best 4-track recording I've ever done, at least. But yeah, I've done other bands too. Picturesque, which was this kind of post-hardcore kind of Texas is the Reason sort of band that was the guys from Threadbare and stuff. Actually was put out, same thing, before they released their album on Trustkill. I demoed their songs and stuff so that they could have it recorded. And then, yeah, Hope Conspiracy I recorded with my reel-to-reel 8-track, this giant Tascam 388, which is like a huge mixing board with the reel-to-reel all together in one unit. And I recorded, the Hope Conspiracy, the early stuff before we went to record with Kurt at God City. But yeah, we moved out to Boston September of '99, and I think in like November or December we were at God City with Kurt, recording the first 4 songs, which, yeah, I don't remember exactly how it was, because we released a tape with 3 songs. I don't know if it was I don't know why it was 3 songs and not 4, because later on Aaron Dahlbeck from Bane and Converge at the time and everything, his live recordings, he re-released that original demo. But yeah, it started out as, a demo cassette that, we had just gotten out to Boston. We lived kind of close by. We came into, we were in touch with the guys from Hydra Head, and Aaron Turner did the artwork for the cassette and the first T-shirts and stuff, and yeah, so I think at our first show we had the demo cassette, and then a little after that, actually I think it was like a year later or so that Aaron put out, or no, it was a year later that Bridge 9 put out. Yeah, I can't remember exactly now, because it's funny, because
I know Code Blue was Equal Vision, right?
Yeah.
And then the File 03 was Bridge 9, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which the File 03 is, basically the original demo plus a new song, No Love Goes Unpunished, which was a new song at the time that we recorded that. We recorded that. We did another session at God City with Kurt, where we recorded No Love Goes Unpunished. That went on the File 03 on Bridge 9, and Treason, the cover. And we also recorded, I think in the same session, I think we recorded the Black Flag cover that went out on the Initial Records compilation that they had. But yeah, so it was basically and it's funny, Hope Conspiracy has, releases on so many different labels. There's the self-release, the demo, the life recordings with Aaron, Equal Vision, Bridge 9, Death Wish, the Initial comp. It's kind of like all sorts of scattered stuff. But yeah, it was basically, the band got signed to Equal Vision, and then I don't remember exactly how it worked out that I think Aaron, I have to go back and remember this stuff about the timeline. I think Aaron put it out before before the EVR stuff, and then after the EVR stuff, Bridge 9 put it out. But yeah, Equal Vision Records, was awesome. Loved that label and everything that, my time was kind of, I wasn't on the later, the second, the last 2 albums with Hope Conspiracy. I think was in the band when one of the songs off of End Note was written or something. It was really, really minimal, so not.
So was the last thing that you did with Hope Conspiracy the Suicide File, like that was it one song on that was it a split?
I'm trying to think of do you remember what song was on the Suicide File split?
Was it Failure? Is that the name of the song?
I'm trying to remember. For some reason, man, I'm blanking on that.
But
I, I,
that was
I
the last
mean,
did that, correct? On with Hope Conspiracy.
what's that?
That was the last thing that you did with Hope Conspiracy, though. Was that split?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I was on the demo and Cold Blue and the Bridge 9 7-inch, the File 03, recording the Black Flag cover, the cover of Treason, No Love Goes Unpunished. I don't remember what song went out on that Suicide File.
Thought that. Thought
It could be it
yeah.
could be after I was out, um, and I kind of unfortunately kind of lost touch and stuff. Um, any divorce gets a little bit a little bit ugly sometimes. I don't know, just like I was bummed about that, but because like for me, Hope Conspiracy was my baby. For me, Cold Blue is, Dave mentioned Incision being his favorite thing. For me, Cold Blue is my pride and joy. So because that's in part because it was a full length that I am proud of. Just about everything on there. There may be like one or two riffs that I would maybe exclude nowadays, but for the most part, like I love that album. And it's like also for being an album, it's you can throw together a 7-inch and have a good 7-inch with a few songs, couple songs, but to get a good album that you're proud of is a bit of a feat. So that's kind of uh, my favorite release. And also because like I was just looking back, it was crazy how productive I was at that time, from the end of Harvest in April of 99 till I think a year and a half later, basically Cold Blue was released, and we had Cold Blue and the original Hope Conspiracy demo and everything. So it's kind of like a song a month, basically,
Yeah.
of all stuff that I'm really happy with, really proud of.
Yeah.
So
Cold Blue definitely by far is the best thing for me. Hope Conspiracy ever put out. I love that album. It's my favorite. That out of the catalog, and like I said, salute to you for putting out such a great album. I mean, I listen to that all the time as well. I always listen. I'm listening to old things too, and I'm listening to a lot of new bands too. And on top of that, I don't just listen to hardcore and stuff like that. I listen to a lot of hip hop. I listen to a lot of 80s new wave. I listen to a lot of R&B from the 70s. Like I'm all over the place, but I always go back to the classics. And I, like I said, Living with the God Complex and Cold Blue is always in rotation. It's at least once a month. I always go back to those albums. So it's
thank,
definitely fun to talk to you about like some of special memories for me listening to those albums, and still to this day. And I'm almost 50 years old, and I'm still cranking them out all the time on the work or whatever. So
yeah, thank you. I'm flattered and happy to hear that. Yeah, it's funny for me. I mean, it's maybe egotistical, but yeah, for me, Cold Blue is my favorite thing with Hope Conspiracy. But I feel I'm bummed that I let some bitterness get in the way of following the band more closely. After I was out of the band, because the last LP too is, I love that, and that's with Neeraj back in the band, and I believe Tim, from American Nightmare, writing and stuff, and Jim, uh, which Jim's amazing as well. And so yeah, like I love that. that stuff as well, the latest LP. But yeah, for me, yeah, it's funny, and also it's, there's it's like kind of like I mentioned, there's the thing, I connect with what I experienced, whether it be bands that I saw personally or, in this case, being in the band. But for me, Hope Conspiracy, like, every now and then I'll watch videos of us in 2000, 2001, and it's like, I just, I love it. It's bad. I know you're not supposed to, it's a lack of humility, but you're not supposed to toot your own horn, but,
Yeah.
it was just like, I don't know, for me, it was, I think it was a perfect combination of, just, everyone coming together with just this goal of just trying to just pummel every second that you're on stage. We sets were always kind of short, on the shorter side. We rarely do more than half an hour. It was usually like 20, 25 minutes. And, we would just kind of like get on stage and just try to destroy to the best of our abilities and be done. And yeah, it was just like, I think it was just such a great, I don't know, luck of, I think, me being, needing this outlet of, writing, angry, energetic, intense music, and Kevin, really, having tons of stuff to express, that I think it was like the perfect marriage,
Yeah.
So it's like, I love Kevin, I love his vocals, his lyrics, everything. There are times back then that, I think we didn't, match up perfectly personality wise. Just kind of just different styles,
Yeah.
I'm a nice Minnesota kid, and he's, well, I mean, I don't, that seems to paint him in a negative light. I don't want to do that, but I don't know. We just had different kind of personalities and stuff, and but like, I love Kevin, and there's no hard feelings with anyone in the band. I love all those guys, and miss them and stuff. But
Now, were you a Piecemeal fan beforehand?
it's funny. I didn't know very much of Piecemeal. There's another thing with Matt Pike, who played a huge role in the Hope Conspiracy, early on. Matt was friends with Kevin, and we, were friends with Matt, and we were, talking with Matt and talking about moving out there, and he mentioned, Kevin, and put us in touch with Kevin. And it was actually Adam, our drummer, that got on the phone and called Kevin before we moved out there, and just talked with him for, I don't know, like an hour or hours or something, and just was basically set that when we get out there, we're trying out Kevin, and it was kind of all set, and it was like, it was, the bond was there kind of instantly, and so then we moved out in early September to Boston. We all lived in a house together, everyone that moved out there. Well, not the girl that moved with us, but the girls. But so yeah, we lived in a house in Alston, which was Adam, Jonas, Neeraj, and I, and then also Chris Chassie, who played in Reach the Sky at the time and went on to play in a bunch of other bands. And so it was like the five of us in this kind of like 3-story house, where there was, another family that lived on the first story that thankfully so, was able to deal with us, because we started having band practices in my bedroom. So I had like this, I think, kind of like the biggest bedroom on the top floor, and I didn't really have furniture. I just kind of had a bed in the corner and like a crate for whatever records or something. And so we just kind of, lifted up the bed, set everything up, and would practice in there at first. And we practiced in there with Kevin, and it just clicked, and it was just all things go right from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know we're coming on almost 2 hours. So usually before I end this, I always do a rapid fire question. So I'm going to start off the questions.
Okay.
Number one, favorite New England hardcore band of all time for you?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, because there are so many that, especially, and, for me, again, it connects to the time that we were out there. And I was out there 99 to 2001. And so, we were living with Chris from Reach the Sky. We played with them and stuff. And American Nightmare, was a huge one too. Wes, came out with us a bunch. Actually blew up the transmission on my van. Not his fault, but it happened while he was driving. But so like American Nightmare and Bane, Bane was a huge one. They came out for the last Harvest show, and we always had this, great friendship with the guys in Bane. But for me, I gotta say Converge, Converge is always, I've always liked Converge. And, the first time Harvest played with them, and it was 96. And obviously they're a phenomenal band that, like, everything is untouchable. They're one of those bands that I put up there with, Sick of It All, and, a handful of bands where there's nothing you can say bad about them,
Yeah.
And, Converge, they took Hope Conspiracy out on our first tour, and toured with them later also after I was out of the band. And we recorded everything we recorded while I was in the band, we recorded with Kurt. I'd have to say Converge, but, also Cave-In was a huge thing too. We played a bunch with those guys, and I bought, countless dozens of burritos from Adam. Adam used to work at Big Burrito, which was like 2 blocks from our house. So I would go there all the time. But yeah, we'd always play together and stuff. And, so it's a tough one, but, I'd have to go with Converge if I have to choose one.
And speaking of New England, I saw Harvest twice in Worcester. I was at the first show I think I saw with you guys was with Dillinger was the headliner. It was Barrett, Isis, Harvest, Black Army Jacket, and there must have been one other band I can't think of it. Other show that
did Saves the Day do that one?
No, but that was the other show that I saw. It was Bane, Harvest, Saves the Day,
Barrett,
Braid, and Barrett. I think
so. Yeah.
Yeah. Those were the 2 shows that I saw Harvest, and I saw Hope Conspiracy twice when you played in the band. But I can't remember like the bands that played with you guys. It's been so long, and I'm so old. Everything blurs together, but those were like some of the memories that I had. And I also took a couple pictures of that Harvest show in the space when Dillinger played with you guys. That I put 2 on my my Instagram, and then if the guy that runs Hardcore 90s, he actually like reposted those too. If anybody follows that guy as well.
That's awesome.
Sorry for the sidebar. I digress. I'll keep going.
No, that's great. And yeah, it's funny because for me, that was a huge thing. I'm trying to think of the first time that we played with Bane. We played with Bane at the Space in Worcester, and I remember that like before Harvest would play. I mean, we've always done this. I think still today we do this. Before we ever start, like when we're on stage, we we compliment each other. Not compliment. I don't know if I say some things that we say in Portuguese but not in English. But we give each other hugs or something like that. We like always give each other fives or whatever.
Yeah.
We always have this kind of moment of connection before the show. And I remember at that show at the Space in Worcester, Aaron from Bane was talking about that during the Bane set. How it was like, I don't know, it was something that he, I don't know, that he liked to see, and kind of, I don't know, it was, I think, just something that kind of created this kind of connection. I remember him talking about that when Bane played, and then, like, I don't know, just always had this connection with Bane as well. But
yeah,
I get sidetracked too.
My next question: all-time favorite punk hardcore show you played?
Ooh, that I played.
Well, give me one with Harvest and one with Hope Conspiracy. What were the two favorite ones that meant something to you?
Yeah, man, that's a tricky one because for Harvest, I'd have to say probably the final Harvest show in '99, just because it was crazy and a final farewell where we knew it was ending, so it was like, it really meant a lot. For the Hope Conspiracy, like you mentioned, a lot of times the details get mixed together. There's a bunch of them. I mean, so many, but like, I think for me, probably the biggest ones are probably shows at CBGB's in New York. Rich Hall always put on just amazing shows, and we did shows there that were just, some insane lineups. I'm trying to remember. There was one that I think was like, if I remember right, it was like an Equivision Records CMJ sort of showcase, where I think it was Converge, Bane, the Hope Conspiracy, American Nightmare, Fairweather, the Strider. Who else? I don't think Caven was on that one. We did a different one with Caven there. I think the first time we played CBGB's was with Converge and Caven. And then also, like all the CBGB shows were momentous. It's like, for me, I love, just thinking about the history of a place, thinking about 20 years before that, Bad Brains being on that stage with HR doing backflips and stuff. And here we're there and playing a show, and, also, and also being just great shows, that Rich always put on great shows. And we played there too, September 16th, 2001, which was crazy. 5 days after 9/11, we played there, which was pretty, I mean, nuts, coming into the city and not seeing the towers and stuff, was heavy. And it was kind of crazy too, because that show, if that show had been 6 days earlier, I would have been one of the people, flying into the World Trade Center, because at the time I was living out in Los Angeles. I moved in July of 2001. I moved out to Los Angeles with my wife, and then I was just flying back and forth all the time. And so yeah, we had that show on the 16th, and so then on the 17th, I flew back on the exact same, airline flight number as one of the planes that hit the towers. And my father-in-law was all was all, worried because he knew I was always flying that route, Boston, LA and stuff. But yeah, like, CBGB's, my last show ever with the Hope Conspiracy was at CBGB's too, which was at the very tail end of our tour with Over My Dead Body, Carry On, Death Threat, did a bunch of the shows and stuff. And that was, that last show, that could be up there as possibly one of them too, because as my last show, I mean, I didn't know it was going to be my last show, or Adam's last show too, because Adam, our drummer, after that, he, went off and joined the Army, because of September 11th. So he left the band to join the Army, and I was living out in LA, and then, basically the other guys in the band didn't think it was working out for me to live in LA. Even though I was like always back in Boston. I think that from July till October, the months that I was living in LA before I was out of the band, I think the longest I was in LA was a week and a half. So like I moved out July 1st, July 3rd, I flew back to start a US tour. And then it was like, I'd be in LA for a week with my wife and then fly back to Boston and be there for a month and stuff. But yeah, so it's just like, that was kind of the thing that split us apart, So yeah, I had, basically at some point, Jonas is like, it's not going to work you being out there. I'm like, well, I'm out here now. So I guess that's it. So.
All right. My next question, all-time favorite. What was the first punk hardcore show that you attended? The very first one that kind of changed your mind and was like, whoa, what is this? Like, what was the...
Yeah, for me, I mean, the first ones would be, small. It would probably be like Dave's band Pillar. That's got to be the first punk show that I'd go to. They'd have these little, garage shows and shows at this warehouse that was in our town and stuff. So there were those, and then so that was Dave and Justin and their band. I think, but for as far as bands that, kind of that anyone knows would, probably be, thing is, I don't even know if I went to that early. Snapcase played a show there, but I'm not even sure if I went to that one. My memory is not clear, but I do remember Into Another and Threadbare. Those were early shows for me that hooked me, and yeah, I mean, those are big ones for me, I guess. So probably the very first ones were probably that.
All right. My next question, all-time favorite punk hardcore show you attended, like as you just watched, you didn't play.
Yeah, that, again, there's so many, and it's funny looking through my tapes and stuff. There's, so much stuff where now I'm kind of blown away by, by how lucky I was to see, so many amazing bands. But I'd have to say one that actually I didn't record, which was Fugazi in Minneapolis. I can't remember when, sometime mid-90s. I can't remember if it was, I know they played there in 95 and they played there in 98, but I don't know if it was 98 or if it was before that. For some reason, I don't think it was 95, but could have been. I don't know. But yeah, Fugazi, they played in Minneapolis at First Ave. First Ave, for anyone from Minnesota, is the big rock club, the iconic rock club of Minnesota. It's the club that Prince used to own, and they filmed Purple Rain and just like, so many big shows there. Saw tons of great shows there. Same thing, Neurosis and Bloodlet I saw there, and just all sorts of stuff. Saw the saw the Cardigans on Valentine's Day with my date was Jonas, the bass player of the whole conspiracy. But yeah, probably a Fugazi. Just because, like, for me, Fugazi was, you know, the perfect band. You know, it's like and I say that just like overall, you know, not just sonically. I loved their sound and everything, but they just had, you know, everything with the, you know, the DIY mentality, you know, the you know, the consciousness, the awareness to keep ticket prices down, and, you know, just like they just were like the perfect band to me. And well, another one that is, you know, kind of up there too. Like for me, the other perfect like hardcore band is Endeavor, which I kind of think of it, Endeavor. It's weird. I don't know why. The other day I was thinking of Endeavor. The thought that came to mind is that I was thinking they're like Fugazi if Fugazi wanted to kill you, but they wouldn't because they're the nicest guys ever. Like it's, you know, it's like the same thing, you know, just like all, you know, Endeavor is another one of those like perfect bands that was a blessing to tour with, because like I, you know, love those guys, and that tour was amazing. And just like I love, you know, everything, you know, in terms of you know, just awareness and everything, and also sonically, I just, you know, love that band. But
Yeah, Endeavor's a huge band for me too. I love those guys. Mike's such a good guy too. Um, I can't say anything bad about Endeavor. I love that band. I have for the longest time. Um,
yeah, it's funny because like, and it was kind of that tour was a funny one because it was there was a kind of sweet and sour thing, because it was supposed to be a full U.S. tour, Harvest and Endeavor. Harvest ended up cutting it a little short. We went out, played the East Coast, went across up north, you know, down the West Coast, and then came back to, you know, worked up, back up to Denver and played Denver. And then the original bass player and drummer of Harvest, they you know, really wanted to go back home, and you know, they had their reasons for wanting to go back home and stuff. And so we ended up cutting the tour short, and that's, you know, that was a you know, a bummer, and also, you know, what kind of you know, came to them not being in the band anymore, because, you know, that for us, that was, you know, something that we, you know, just didn't feel you know, was acceptable to give up on a tour, you know. You know, obviously looking back, you know, everyone has their own reasons and stuff, but yeah, so that tour, it was funny because you know, the Harvest van, you know, there were some times that was a bit tense. You know, the band, you know, had, you know, basically broke up at the end of that, and then, you know, got new members afterwards. And the Endeavor van was just like, you know, good times central. We like, I remember I rode with them, you know, sometimes, you know, I think like from the show from Chicago to Minneapolis, I rode in their van with them. And like, you know, it was just like, you know, everyone in good spirits and laughing and having a good time. And Duffy had this crazy bush jumping suit that he had, this crazy kind of like a full onesie snowmobile suit or something that he would put on. And then, you know, after shows, and he'd go and rush, and, you know, if there was like a, you know, some hedges somewhere that next to the club, he'd run and dive into them and stuff. And so like, you know, it was like they were just this band that, you know, I just loved everything about, and they were just seemingly, you know, having a blast, and such, you know, good friends and on good terms and everything. And you know, just kind of like, you know, a little bit of jealousy of how great things were with them, you know, and we were in this kind of little bitter moment, but you know, it's it's not, there's no bitterness now. I've actually now with the video channel and stuff started talking with the original members of Harvest, mostly Aaron and stuff, and so it's been great getting back in touch. And it's like, with all these bands, like I don't have any bad, there's no bad blood at all. It's like, it's just, the fond memories that stick and stuff. But
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
I'm a huge movie fan. I watch a lot of movies. Like I said, I was trying to watch 360 movies in 1 year. It didn't work out. I only got 200. I tried for 5 years. It wasn't working. I got all on fucking new movies, like ones that I've never seen. So I'm a big movie buff. What was the last movie you watched?
That's a tricky one because I love going to movies. I love going to the theater, and with the pandemic, that hasn't been a thing for a long time now. So, so I think probably the last thing I saw was probably Seaspiracy on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a documentary basically about how messed up our oceans are and stuff, and so I think that's a documentary. I don't know if you count that, but trying to think of other movies. I can't think of one right now. Because a lot of times, I mean, lately what I've been watching mostly, lots of stand-up comedy, some series and stuff. Less movies. It's funny, on Netflix I watch more series than movies for some reason. But
I try to watch series too as well. My last movie was a movie called Fried Barry that I talked to Chris Colohan from The Swarm and Left 4 Dead and Sect now, and he told me to watch Fried Barry. It's kind of like a South African. It's very strange. An alien kind of abducts like a heroin addict junkie and kind of lives in his body and kind of explores the city in this junkie's body, which it's very strange. But the guy that was the Barry put on a great performance. So if you ever stumble upon that, it's very weird. Don't just warning you. It's very, very.
I'll check it out.
My next question: favorite all-time horror movie for you?
For me, that's a tricky one too. Like I love, when I was younger, I loved Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. Well, Nightmare on Elm Street had a kind of a special connection with me because my great grandfather's name is actually Freddy Krueger.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like, it was kind of funny being a kid growing up with Nightmare on Elm Street, and like, we could go to the cemetery and visit my great grandfather Freddy Krueger and stuff. So it's kind of a funny little thing. But yeah, those, I remember, what was it? I think Poltergeist was one of the movies that when I was a kid, just like that messed me up, seeing that. I don't remember how old I was when that came out, when I saw that, but that was, I was probably a little kid. Yeah.
What got me was the clown that grabbed the kid and pulled him under the bed. That's what got me in that movie. I was like, oh, and then I didn't want to,
yeah.
I wanted to jump off my bed after I saw that. I didn't want to go near the bottom of it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, my next question. I'm a big hip hop guy. I listen to hip hop, not so much the new stuff, but like 90s boom bap hip hop. If you've been listening to any hip hop lately, what have you been listening to?
Yeah, it's funny for me. Same thing. I fall into this habit of always listening to the same thing over and over. And for me, there's probably nothing for hip hop that I listen more to than Kendrick Lamar. His album Damn, I think is, for me, that's like, there's certain perfect albums, like the Beatles' Abbey Road and, Kendrick Lamar's Damn and the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, those are albums, that are just like, perfect. And but it's funny. Yeah, I don't know. I listen to, I was a kid in the Midwest growing up where, my kind of cultural teaching was Saturday Night Live, whoever the musical guests were there, and Headbangers Ball and MTV and stuff. So like, I and I was a huge Anthrax fan from early on. So, Public Enemy was, like on the radar from very early on. And but it's funny, I never really listened. I was never a huge hip hop listener, although I had tons of friends around me that listened a bunch, and NWA and stuff, and well, mostly Wu-Tang. In the little town where I grew up, like all the skateboarders and snowboarders, everyone listened to Wu-Tang more than anything else. So, that was always there. Actually, like on these videotapes, the channel, I was going through and checking out the first Disembodied show that I recorded in '95, and the footage before that is, me and my friends snowboarding, with the car just parked there, blasting Wu-Tang and stuff. And so I was like, yeah, I was always around, but it's funny, I didn't, I never really bought that many records or anything. It was mostly listening to what, my friends were playing.
Yeah. My final question, favorite song to play live, one from Harvest and one from Hope Conspiracy. What was your favorite song to play for both those bands live?
Yeah, that's I think, with Harvest, I feel bad not being able to play the old stuff, the very original, the early Harvest stuff, because I loved playing Cessation. And there's a bunch of, old, friends and fans that want to hear the old stuff. And we basically, since 96, 97, we kind of stopped playing the first 7-inch and the early stuff. Yeah. I love Cessation, but you can't really beat, Virtue was always a big one that, like, it's just, it's an amazing thing for people to sing along, and stuff. So it's like, you can't, it's just undeniable, how good that feels. So like Virtue was always a big one. And, obviously Epicure, that's the one that, more than any other that people know and enjoy and stuff. So that was, it's gotta be Epicure, it's gotta go to that. But yeah, I miss playing Cessation, and I love playing Virtue too. Yeah, there's tons, I love that whole, In the Eyes of Decay, I love playing as well. There's a bunch. Hourglass, I wish we would play. We kind of stopped playing that early on too. But
what about the Hope Conspiracy?
Yeah, Hope Conspiracy. Probably Truth and Purpose. Just because it's, I don't know. I just, it's, it's just like, it just attacks and then it's done. It's just fast and just kind of, just, I don't know, not bludgeoning. It's not even that it's the heaviest, but I love, just the raw energy of it. It's kind of like I mentioned, Bad Brains at CBGB's. I kind of think that is like, that's kind of, I never really think about, following someone or trying to emulate someone or anything like that. But like, Bad Brains, that's there's something there that it's like there's an essence that is what, you know, I'm kind of always drawn to, and trying to kind of, you know, be, you know, my own version of that, just, you know, just pure energy and raw emotion, you know. And that's you know, and Hope Conspiracy was, you know, full on that, you know, just like raw and energetic. And like, I think, you know, Truth and Purpose, that was one that was just like, I don't know, I love that one. But, you know, I love you know, same thing. There's, you know, Escapist too. Like, you know, Escapist. I love the, you know, the break before coming in with the heavy part with the harmonics. Uh, you know, it was always kind of a fun one to play live, because like, you know, I would, you know, I was the first one to bring the song back after the bridge. You know, during the bridge we just ring it out, you know, and then we just kind of feel out, you know. So I just kind of feel out the crowd, and then when it felt like a good time to come back in with a dun 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 dun, you know. So it was like that was always a fun one to play live, just because you have that little moment where you're like, I don't know, you just kind of feeding off the crowd, and you know, seeing how long you wait, how, you know, how quick
Yeah.
you want to rush things and stuff. So yeah, that was a big one live too. That was always a blast playing. So, but yeah, I mean, like Hope Conspiracy, seriously, there's you know, I love playing all that stuff live. Yeah, there's really nothing that I look back as, you know, that I am not happy with, except I think kind of like the first riff of Regret Kills, which had a different title on the tape version. I think it was called When the Doves Cry on the tape version. And then I don't know. I don't know. I think because it was too similar to a Prince reference, I think, I think Kevin changed it to Regret Kills. And that has, you know, just kind of a weird timing thing. I have, you know, a habit of writing weird timings, even if the drums are doing 4/4.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that one has a weird guitar thing where it's like, so it's kind of like I don't know, like a 15/8 time signature or something. It's kind of a weird thing, but yeah, I don't, rambling again.
And I want to thank you so much for doing this with me. I appreciate it. It's like I said, I don't want to keep you too long. I know like I have to get my kids to bed at some point pretty soon. So I'm just super appreciative that you came and talked to me about the old times and what's going on nowadays with you. Also, everybody look out for Recept, because that stuff is mega to me. Like, thank you for sending me those songs to hear, because I really, really enjoyed them. City of God,
Awesome.
for that too with Dave. And also the 25 After YouTube channel has been great. So if anybody wants to subscribe to that, just subscribe and watch some old bands that really, really ripped it back then. It's just awesome to see that old stuff. And once again, super thankful that you came on and talked to me.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time. And you know, I had a blast here. And yeah, with the 25 After, I'll be uploading shows till December of 2023. So after, I mean, those are my VHS-C shows. After that, you know, it's whatever I filmed with other things. But we've got a couple of years of upcoming shows there. And yeah, thank you for doing this. It's I love what you're doing, and you know, it's cool. I haven't checked out, I haven't watched that many of them yet, but the ones that I've seen that you've done have been great. It's you know, I love conversations and stuff like this that I don't know, I miss it. So I had a blast here, and I thank you for the invitation.
And usually I put these on YouTube, you know, within the next week or so. So if anybody misses this, they can go to YouTube. Just search Hal Capone. I have a channel. Dan has a channel as well on there. And like I said, if you want to watch any of my old ones, you can subscribe and watch. But once again, thank you. Let's stay in touch because I love talking to you. I love going back and forth. And I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Yeah, definitely. Let's stay in touch. And I need to subscribe to your channel. I don't think I am yet. Yeah, I haven't really, I'm kind of just getting started. I went from being kind of a hermit that has no contact with anyone and kind of intentionally tries to stay away from social media just because I get sucked into it and for a while I was getting into arguments and stuff that wasn't productive, and so like I try to curb my social media time, and then now I'm trying, it's like I'm back into it, but I haven't subscribed yet, but I'm gonna after this so that I can check out all these videos.
I'll definitely send you some links. Sorry, my dogs are going wild too.
Yes. All right.
I'll let you go. Thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. It was great.
All right.
Take care.
Take it easy.
See you.